Hey guys, my name is Chris and I'm a surgical registrar in adult general surgery, and today I want to talk to you about how to make study more sustainable, because it's something that we all have to do, and unfortunately it can be really difficult at times to do it well. So the first caveat to this is that a lot of people have a lot of really good ideas and different techniques that work for them. So what I want to talk to you about is what has worked for me, and that may not be right for you, so just keep that in mind when you're approaching this video. The first of those things is to put your study in context. It's really easy to look at a pile of knowledge and think, well, how am I even going to start to approach this? It just seems like an overwhelming amount and I really have no idea where I'm going to even begin. If you can take that overwhelming amount of knowledge and give it a sense of structure, then suddenly you have a context in which you're reading through material or working through material. And that context is everything. Because when you're trying to study, it's about retention, and retention is linked to context. It's one of the reasons why studying in a job can be so much more helpful than just studying something in theory, because you can put it in context and the knowledge makes more sense. You can artificially do that by breaking down complex topics into subheadings or subcategories, which then are broken down into even smaller subcategories, so that when you're thinking about an individual fact, you're thinking about it in the context of its broader dimension, and that will help you to retain that information more effectively over time. The next core idea is to break your study into digestible pieces. There are a lot of different ways of doing this, and one of the most effective ways is through active recall, building questions into your study that deal with small pieces of information that you can force yourself to recall and then have that feed into a broader topic. But there are a lot of other ways to do it. The best way that I could summarize it is to study in tweets, not in paragraphs. If you think about facts as individual bits of information that cumulatively contribute toward an overall understanding of a subject matter, then if you break those facts down into their smallest possible components and study those individual pieces repetitively over time, it's a lot less intimidating than reading through an entire chapter of a textbook and hoping to retain the key information. More than that, if you read through an entire chapter of a textbook, you're less likely to be able to follow it by the time you get to the end, because it's so easy to forget the context of the beginning of the chapter. You've just gone through so much material to get to the end. What you can do is break it down into its subjective pieces, put it into that context that we were talking about before, and study those individual bits. It's one of the reasons why flashcards can be such an effective tool for study, because it's essentially breaking down complex ideas into that smaller form. So if you think about it in those terms, there's a lot of different ways in which you could do that. One of the ways that I use is Anki flashcards, and also using Notion and a page that is broken down into different questions which I can then relate into an overall topic. And I have a separate video about that which I will link above, so that if you'd like to look into how I do it, then you can go to that video and see. The final key point that I wanted to get across to you was that think about your study in terms of years, not in terms of days. And the reason for that is really important. All of us have had that experience where you've spent an hour or two studying a topic, and then 2 days later you're trying to recall what it was that you were studying, and you just can't recall the information, or you're not recalling it to the degree that you were before. Now, there are lots of techniques to try and minimize the effect of that loss of knowledge over time, but one of the most important things is just not to be too hard on yourself. If you think about your knowledge basis now versus where you were 2 years ago, suddenly the progress is evident, and you can look at that and build upon it. But if you look back only a week or only a day, then it doesn't seem like you're making a lot of progress. And that's one of the issues that people have with motivation, is that when you can't see how things are improving, it's really hard to then motivate yourself to try to improve them further. And so if you think about it in terms of years and not in terms of days, you're going to find yourself in a better headspace. And so when you're looking at a topic for a second time, even though you've only looked at it 2 or 3 days before, suddenly it's not a defeat to have that study session be about the same topic. It's about cumulatively working towards making sure that your knowledge over time, over years, is improving, and not being too hard on yourself in the interim. Okay, those are my main 3 tips for today. I hope that's been helpful. I know that some of them are simple, but in applying them, there's a great deal of complexity in doing it well. And I think that if you can use those as a North Star, if you like, to start thinking about the way in which you approach the topic you're trying to learn more about, it can really save you a lot of time, and it can be really helpful. So have a great day, and until the next one, enjoy the work.